Scheduled meeting, regularly scheduled meeting of the Technical Advisory Committee of the MWPA. Today is Monday, January 31st, and we are at 10:07. We'll go ahead and get the meeting started. Can we get a roll call, please?
Yes, Bolinas Fire District.
Steve Marcotte with the Bolinas Fire Department.
Thank you. City of San Rafael, Marin Wood, CSD.
Ben Gardner's present.
City of Larkspur,
Present.
County of Marin.
Jordan Reeser is here.
You. Kentfield Fire Protection District.
Larry Pacero is present.
Muir Beach, CSD.
David Taylor, present.
Novato Fire District.
Lynn Osgood present.
Sleepy Hollow Fire Protection District. Absent. Southern Marin Fire District, City of Mill Valley.
Fred Hilliard's present under protest because it's his day off.
Aw.
Stinson Beach Fire Protection District.
Yeah, Daniel Blair's here.
Thank you. Town of Court Madera.
Todd Lando present for Corte Madera.
Thank you. Town of Fairfax. Absent. Town of Ross.
Rob Ashenon present for Ross.
Thank you. Town of San Anselmo. San Anselmo. Absent. And then Inverness has a vacant position, it looks like here. Anybody from Inverness? No? Okay. We have a quorum. Thank you.
Thank you. By chance, can we get a roll call for our non-voting members?
Oh, sure. Let me see. They're not on. Let me check this other list here. Marin County Parks.
Jim Chaka, present.
Thank you. Pacific Gas and Electric Company. No Pacific Gas. California State Parks.
Hardcastle present.
Thank you. Ecological Sound Practices. No.
She's here.
Present.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. National Park Services.
Greg Jones is on. Good morning.
Thank you. And Marin Municipal Water District.
Yeah, good morning. Sean Horn present.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Item number 3, hopefully you had an opportunity to look at the agenda, and there's an opportunity if you have any adjustments to the agenda that was posted. Seeing none, we'll go on to item number 4. This is open time for public expression. The public is welcome to address the ATC at this time on matters not on the agenda that are within the jurisdiction of the committee. Please be advised that pursuant to Government Code Section 54954.2, the committee is not permitted to discuss or take any actions on any matter not on the agenda. Comments may be no longer than 3 minutes and should be respectful to the community. Please silence your cell phones during the meeting. Mute your microphone when not reporting out, please. Do we have any members of the public that have any comments?
At this time, the public, if you'd please raise your hand if you'd like to speak. Seeing no hands raised at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll bring it back to the committee. Item number 5, this is Planning and Program Managers Report.
Good morning. I'll take that. So I was going to start off by saying I'll try to keep this brief, but I really will. But we have a lot going on, so apologies in advance. I'd like to start off just with a quick status report related to project implementation of our current work plan. So that's fiscal year 21-22. In terms of CEQA compliance, we've completed CEQA compliance for 16 core projects, and a big thanks to many of you who are actively coordinating with myself and the consultants to get that done. We also have a Coastal Act permit underway, biologists out in the field. They should be about done now, getting those field surveys underway, and then we're going to be coordinating with county planning staff on that. We also, as an aside, the consultants and I provided a brief overview of kind of a frequently asked questions related to CEQA, and that happened at the January 20th board meeting. If you're interested in taking a look at that, you can view that. It's item 11F, an information item, and it starts at about 1 hour and 45 minutes into the meeting. It covers things like lead agency versus responsible agency and MWPA's role, substantial evidence and preparation of our supporting memos that you're all familiar with, and what a desktop review is in terms of biological resources. So some of the questions that have come up, and we wanted to present some information on that. So if you're interested, please feel free to take a look at that. And if you would like something like that on this agenda, let me know. So in terms of acreage and miles, we have completed environmental compliance for somewhere around 260 miles of evacuation route roadside vegetation management, still around 12 miles of fire road vegetation management. That number hasn't moved in a few months. And somewhere around 460 to 480 acres of shaded fuel breaks and goat grazing, depending on how you count it. A big thank you to all of you who helped compile all that information and coordinate with staff and consultants on that. I'd like to welcome Lori Frontella. She is a contractor with RGS, Regional Government Services, and she is helping us build agendas and clerk our meetings so that Mark and I can spend our time working on the stuff in our job descriptions. And so we really appreciate her help on that. We are going to be recruiting for a management analyst position who will take over clerking responsibilities, as well as a variety of other admin responsibilities such as HR, helping with contracts and procurement, things like that. We also have a grants position that we'll be recruiting for in the near future, and that person will help both distribute and run our own resident grant program for home hardening and defensible space, and also help with grant applications and then administering those grants once we receive them for outside funding, like say CAL FIRE, etc. We took those two positions to the board of directors in January and got approval. So we're working with an HR and recruiting contractor through RGS to get those positions filled in the near future. So we're excited about that. Let's see, regarding our resident grant program, we're excited to roll that out. We rolled that out in the first couple of weeks of January. We've got some applications in, and we're working on making sure that the turnaround time for distributing funds is as fast as it can be. Charlotte Jourdain has been a really essential member of that team, and so is Maria Schmidt, who's the Grizzly Corps Fellow who's helping support that program. We're really excited to get that moving and distribute those funds. The Operations Committee met on January 13th and held an election for chair and vice chair for the 2022 calendar year. And as an FYI, Chief Tyler with Novato Fire is stepping down as chair, and Chief White with San Rafael Fire is stepping up. So a big thank you to Chief Tyler for his service, and Chief White for stepping up. Dan Schwartz is going to stay on as vice chair. So a big thank you to him for another year of commitment. And I think that's where I'm going to leave it. We've got a lot to cover today, so I'll leave it there. Thank you. Any questions?
Any questions for Ann? I've got a question, Ann. By chance, how many resident grant applications did you receive?
I'm going to ask Mark. I meant to ask you that this morning, Mark, and I forgot.
We're still not at that many as we'd like to have. We're probably close to 10-ish right now, but
we're looking at ways to expand our advertisement and outreach for it so we can get those numbers up.
Okay, would it be helpful if members of the ATC reach out to our PIOs and float that?
Absolutely. In fact, and Charlotte just texted me. So we have 8 home hardening applications, 15 D-space applications. We did send a media packet to all of the PIOs, but having you guys reinforce that, hey, can you help us out, would be greatly appreciated.
Mhm.
Okay. We'll do what we can to support you.
Perfect. Thanks, Ruben.
Okay, any other questions for Ann or Mark Brown? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and bring it back. We're on to item number 6, the consent calendar. Items for the consent calendar are approval of the minutes for the December 14th agenda. Will anyone like to have that item pulled? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and are there any members of the public that would like those items pulled by chance?
I see no hands raised at this time.
Okay. Can we go ahead and get a motion for approval of the consent items? Anyone?
I'll make a
make a
motion to
motion.
approve it.
Marcotte, motion. Can I get a second, please?
Seconded.
Okay. Second, we have David Taylor. Okay, may we get a roll call, please?
Salinas Fire District,
Aye.
City of San Rafael, Marinwood CSD,
Aye.
City of Larkspur,
Aye.
County of Marin,
Yes.
Kentfield Fire Protection District,
Yes.
Muir Beach CSD,
Aye.
Novato Fire District,
Aye.
Sleepy Hollow Fire District, they're absent. Southern Marin Fire District, City of Mill Valley,
Aye.
Stinson Beach Fire Protection District,
Aye.
Town of Corte Madera. They're no,
Todd,
they're Todd is there. Okay, thank you. Town of Fairfax is absent. Town of Ross,
Aye.
Town of San Anselmo is absent, and Inverness is absent. Passes by unanimous vote. Thank you.
thank you, everyone. We're moving on to item number 7, discussion items. Item A would be update regarding the development of the fiscal 22-23 work plan and associated web portal. Do we have a report or a presentation?
Yes, that's me. Are you able to see this starter slide?
Yes.
Great. Today I'd like to provide an overview of the guidance that the Operations Committee has provided for development of the next fiscal year work plan, an overview of the timeline and process, and talk about the role of the ATC. Then we'll dive into the web portal and explain where we are. I'll hand it off to Josh Hampshire to help provide a demonstration of the web portal and kind of its current status, and then we'll discuss next steps. So each year, the Operations Committee determines an overall strategy for the next work plan. And on January 13th, the Ops Committee discussed that overall strategy in its meeting. And really the highlights of that discussion are to continue that house out approach that we know is so successful. But in addition, increase grant programs available to the public, both in terms of amount of funding available and the type of grant available for home hardening, defensible space, etc. Work towards more shaded fuel breaks adjacent to our communities. We'll also be discussing potential grant opportunities to fund those from outside sources such as CAL FIRE, etc. Partnering with insurance, IBS, Insurance Institute for Business and Home Safety, to help avoid insurance cancellations. That's a big concern. I know Mark is on this, and we're going to be focusing on that more in this next fiscal year. Increasing public education and expanding that work beyond the audiences that we've already been reaching. So how do we go beyond the choir that we've been preaching to and reach some new audiences? So these principles are going to help guide the ATC in developing the next work plan for fiscal year 22-23. So in terms of tasks and milestones and timeline, we've got a lot of work ahead of us, as you know. So I created this slide. It looks backwards a little bit, starts in the fall, because it's good to start planning for this kind of work plan development season in the fall. This last fall, we started building the web portal, maybe October, November. In the future, I think it'll be good to go back and fine tune the web portal each year and work out any bugs. Of course, in December, we started at the ATC and Ops committees again. And then in January, we'll need to elect a chair and vice chair of the ATC and of course Ops, which happened on the 13th. The Ops committee will each year be creating that overall approach and strategy, and that's done. And then think through the process for work plan development. So for the Ops committee, that might mean recommending a couple of ad hoc subcommittees to determine budgets and really dive into the numbers. And then another to review project proposals as they're ready. So that second ad hoc would happen a little later in the season. So for the ATC, we'll be electing a chair and vice chair, and that's on the agenda today. And also discussing the web portal and approach timeline and instructions for how to use it, and that's happening today as well. In February, March, that's really when we'll be diving into the web portal and building those proposals and uploading them to this new web portal, which acts as a tool and a database to track these. In terms of timing and how to make that work, February will be really member agency staff and ATC members using that portal to upload projects, modify as needed, and we'll be doing all of that in relation to compliance with different requirements such as the Brown Act. In March, we'll start making those proposals a little more publicly available so that the public can see what we're proposing and where, and I'll get into that a little bit more in a minute. And then late March, early April, ATC will, this committee will discuss proposals during a public meeting and get things ready to move on to the Ops. So April, let's see, deliver your proposals to the Ops committee for consideration. Ops committee can dive into those proposals and really think through budget and tweaking and working with ATC and staff to get that work plan ready for board consideration. We'd like the board to consider the work plan in May. We need to get it done and approved by the board in May. So we're hoping to get that done somewhere in mid-May. I'm not sure what the board date is there, but so the web portal is really designed to help make it easier to see what the NWPA is up to view proposals in the context of the greater strategy of the greater region. So we're excited to be able to place those proposals on a map, for instance, so that we can see them in relation to each other. It'll be a lot easier to share that information with member agencies and partners and the public earlier, and also in a more clear way. So it'll be a lot easier than scrolling through a 1,000-page document. As some of you are aware, developing this brand new method for creating a work plan has been a challenge, and we're working with legal counsel to make sure that what we're doing complies with the Brown Act and the Public Records Act and all of these requirements that we need to follow as a Brown Act committee. So because it's all new, this guidance from legal counsel has really evolved over the course of building the web portal. So originally we were hoping that everyone, non-voting members, voting members would all log into the web portal, create their password, and be able to view everybody's proposals. But we're seeing that because of the Brown Act and other requirements, we really need to be careful and more thoughtful about that arena. So that means that non-voting members will need to be coordinating with member agencies and vice versa on a project by project basis, rather than just signing into the portal as we had originally envisioned. And then we'll be pushing proposals maybe in batches as they become ready to become to be either posted on our website or be daylighted in kind of mini meetings along the way, so that we can really facilitate a more open discussion about those projects. So we'll be, I think some of you received some guidance on this already. And we've also added a question into the web portal, so that when you're uploading a proposal, one of the questions is, does your project overlap state, federal, or local public lands, and have you coordinated with those entities? So we really do want to encourage coordination as much as we can, while still complying with all our requirements. So some of the next steps are to address edits and comments through the beta testing process. So big thank you to those of you, many of you on this call today, for helping us with that. So Quinn Gardner, Kate Anderson, Todd Lando, Mike Swayze, Gavin Albertoli, and others for helping us test out this tool and upload some test projects and give us feedback. It's a work in progress. We're still making tons of changes, and we're hoping to get it up and running by the end of this week. Either way, once it's ready, we'll be sending you an invitation to create a password. This will likely arrive in your spam folder, just so you know. It always arrives in the spam folder, so make sure to check that, and to check any of your kind of firewall settings that might prevent it from arriving. And then with that, I'm going to invite Josh to give you a little demo, show you what it looks like online, and maybe log in and upload a test project. Josh?
Hi all. Yeah, so I know I've presented in the form of a PowerPoint on the web portal a couple times to this committee as we've been building it, but we thought that today, because we're getting a lot closer to the final product, it would be a good opportunity to actually just walk through it with me screen sharing in a live as we upload a proposal. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen right now. Oh, post disabled. Screen sharing.
Can we make sure that Josh is able to screen share?
There we go. Okay, so here we are. I already started one a little bit, but I'll start from the home tab here. We got a couple questions on what projects you would be able to see in this map area, and it's projects uploaded by your agency. This is stuff that, like Anne mentioned, the advice from legal counsel has evolved over time, and we got to be careful with Brown Act. So in this proposal uploading stage, it's just going to be the proposals inputted by your agency. And then if you opted not to upload a map using the embedded map tool into this, and instead just upload a KML file, that would also show up in this map. That was a question that we received in the beta testing round. Also, if at any point throughout this presentation I skip over a question that someone that helped beta test asked, or a comment, raise your hand, interrupt me. I want this to be an opportunity to talk through all that stuff. So now on to add a proposal. Let's test here, project generated by, zone. City of Larkspur. So one of the recommendations that we got was that these labels above each field right here, they disappeared before, and it was really hard to review and see what information was inputted where. That's different now, so they all pop up above, and it's easier to proofread. Vegetation management, proposal category. And so another question that we got was this proposal category question. It seems like a little bit repetitive. We've got these goals, we've got objectives. Once we get to the actual specific tab for vegetation management, why do we also have proposal category? What does that mean? That's the system that we use to code projects in the past. Is based off of these proposal categories. So each one of these has a 2-letter code that would go into the project name, and that helps MWPA staff track and bill projects. We're thinking about changing that coding systems to reflect the new objectives and goals identified by the ATC subcommittee on objectives and metrics. So this question will probably go away, but oh, sorry, that doesn't make sense. Let's see. What else? There was another thing that I wanted to touch on here. Maybe it'll come back to me. This is the question that Anne was talking about, that we're trying to build in collaboration with land managers throughout the county. We want you to input the point of contact here. Project description summary. One of the recommendations that we got was that the word counts were a little too restrictive. We're going to make those recommendations now. So it might have a word counter that says how many words you have left, but if you go over, that's okay. You'll still be able to submit. It just gives an idea of the size of response that we're looking for, so that we don't get unnecessarily lengthy questions, which just, it's more time for people inputting the project and more time for people reviewing the projects. Makes it easier over time to understand the work plan in its entirety. Down here, we have some questions. So here, the Appendix B link, that now takes you to another tab in which all the CWPP Appendix B approved projects. So you can select from them in this appendix. So the fire hazard severity zone, we got a few questions on this as well. This is just so that we can turn proposals into CAL FIRE grant applications or grant proposals. And we got some questions down here, what these questions meant, the JPA, adjacent communities, number of communities at risk. We'll be adding in some more language to communicate that these are communities at risk within the JPA, communities at risk adjacent to the JPA, and then number of communities at risk will just be the total of that. So, and then member agency attests that this project is not supplanting projects. A lot of people had difficulty saving the projects throughout the process. And I think that that was a bug that's been fixed now. The important thing to note is that all you need to save a project is the project name. If you don't have that inputted, you won't be able to save it. So yeah, it works. And able to edit, that was another bug. So those are both worked out. So now we're getting to the vegetation management tab, and we're navigating to here next because that was the goal chosen on basic info. You're not able to click on any of these other tabs because you need to select those goals. Project overview. another brief description, including the estimate number of habitable structures and names of general communities that will benefit. Here's where you select the MWPA objective identified by the Objectives and Metrics Committee. And a question that we got, or comment or suggestion, was that some projects might fall into multiple goals or multiple objectives, and we're going to add fields for sub-objectives and sub-goals. So you'll have a primary objective, and that's how we will identify the metrics that will be used to track project progress. But you can also input the secondary objectives that you might have. So I think I did evacuation route. Provide clear rationale on how the proposed project will reduce the risks of associated with wildfire. Does the project potentially overlap the coastal zone? So this is important for MWPA staff and consultants to consider what type of compliance is going to be required for the project. And it's important that all agencies involved with the project design and implementation are aware of any area that might overlap with the coastal zone. So we've got this link here that will take you to a map. And then here we had some questions about what these: planning a project, an initial treatment, or maintenance of a previously approved MWPA project. So these are 3 different stages that we identified for vegetation management projects. They will affect the questions that you receive down below, but we will include some more clarifying information above, or wording above this, to explain what each project is: a planning project, an initial treatment, or maintenance of a previously approved MWPA funded project. Some might include both, but pretty much if there's just going to be planning or environmental compliance and no implementation, then it's a planning project. If there's going to be initial treatment in that work plan year, then it will be an initial treatment project. If the project has already been started and the initial treatment phase is over, but there's still ongoing vegetation management, then it will be maintenance. And then this question down here regarding CEQA: would the project result in physical disturbance and therefore potentially be subject to CEQA? Agencies don't decide here whether or not there will be any CEQA for the project. It's just asking if there's any, of any CEQA documentation or biological resources or previous survey habitat data available. So that's why this section is here, not to decide if CEQA is going to be taking place or not. And so you hit next after doing all those questions, and then you get to the map tab. To upload your own GIS file, it will be through a KML file, not a KMZ. And if you need any help on doing that, you can always reach out, and we'll make sure that everyone is able to do that process if they have their own GIS maps. But if not, then we've got this map tool here. I think we've already walked through how to use it. And then can save draft. Is there anything that I missed, Anne, that came up in the beta testing round, or anyone else who provided suggestions? Yes, thanks, Jordan. Go ahead.
I just have a question about viewability and who's going to have access to the individual projects. I know you mentioned per agency will have the access if they put it in, but I'm just thinking about some of the core projects. If all the core members in a core zone will have access to view the map that shows all the projects in that zone, and then if there are multi-agency projects, if multiple people will be able to access that project, instead of me having to send information to Quinn per se for her to input into the system, can I just go in and input it if it's a multi-agency project in the core zone, for example?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that gets kind of at the heart of the restrictions because of the Brown Act and Public Records Act and et cetera, et cetera. So originally we were hoping that at least we could open it up by zone for visibility, but because some of the zones or at least one of the zones is so close to a quorum of this committee, we can't do that. So it's going to be by agency in the initial stages. And then as we're able to kind of roll out and make more public what proposals are currently underway, then we'll be able to open up visibility beyond just that member agency who uploaded it. So it'll have to, that kind of openness is going to happen in stages.
Okay, I appreciate that. And I guess just thinking a little bit about the West Marin reality of, the lack of staffing that our volunteer agencies have out there, and, kind of myself and Gavin and others in the future at county, I'm really supporting them in these efforts. And it would just, if they aren't able to access to look at a project in their project there, in their zone that we're trying to help them implement, or vice versa, could just be a bit of a bummer.
Yeah, I would say that the narrative associated with all of that is it's a bit of a bummer. Yeah, I think that's accurate. I would also say though that that if there are specific ways you want to collaborate, contact me offline and let's figure out how best to go about that. The beginning stages are more restrictive, and then as we start daylighting information and making it public, then we can be more expansive in terms of who gets to see what.
Quinn?
Yeah.
Kind of to Jordan's point and the idea of rolling things out in public, can we create a draft distinction that would be very publicly obvious to the public? Since we're going to have to do some of our work in that public forum, I think having that is going to be really important. And then my second question, and I don't want to dive into every what if, but if something doesn't fit in general, what's going to be the guidelines there? Is it going to be a pick this, or are we going to create some type of other category, or just?
Are you talking about goals and objectives?
Yeah, like if it's just something, because there's going to be some things that either have, multiple categories, staffing probably being the one of the most obvious, if it's outside of the defensible space dollars, but just general guidance on how we're going to handle those not neat buckets.
Yeah, then just contact us and we'll make it fit. We'll figure it out. I mean, we've got our consultants on contract to keep making edits as we go, because we'll have more edits even after we roll this out. I'm sure there will be things that don't quite work and things that we haven't thought of beforehand. So we can adapt as we go. That's kind of been the theme anyway for all of this work.
I will say too, I appreciate the opportunity to get in there, and I think overall I'm really excited about it. I think it'll be great. So thank you.
Thanks, Quinn, and thanks for your time on that. Let's see, we've got Fred and we've got Belle. Fred?
Yeah, hi. So my question, I guess, is when this runs through multiple jurisdictions, so in the past, we worked directly with other jurisdictions for a core project. We essentially shared the responsibility because we don't have a dedicated staff member to, do all this work right now. We're working with other agencies to provide the information. So is there, I'm assuming from what I hear, there'll be one agency that'll be responsible to input all this information. And then after we get down the road, then we can open it up to the other agencies to share. One of the issues I see though is, the public communication, or buy-in from smaller groups that are within that, like homeowners associations and things like that. So I'm just curious if that's been addressed and what we would do in that situation.
Yeah, there's collaboration that can happen as long as we're not reaching a quorum of the ATC members, but it just needs to happen outside of the tool itself.
Okay.
So, thumbs up on collaboration in terms of daylighting the proposals that are uploaded into the tool. We'll be doing that as they're ready to facilitate more coordination, to make that public and facilitate more coordination within the committee.
Okay.
So,
Can I ask a follow-up to that real quick? I'm sorry, Bill. Would it be possible for just a running list of all the questions that are in there? I think that would make the collaboration piece a lot easier. So we had that outside of the tool to kind of chat over the relevant questions.
That's a great idea. Yeah.
Thank you.
Belle?
Yes, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Good. Well, my question is along the lines of access for non-voting members. And you've mentioned a few options, and I'm not clear how, the first option, you said access to who? If as a way of getting information, you can collaborate or you can have access to an agency that you work with. I'm just not sure what those options are. I wish you'd explain it a little bit, because it's kind of important now for us to understand how we may fit into this and not be too late.
Yeah, I think, one of the limitations in terms of working within the tool, collaborating within the tool, is that you need to collaborate.
Within the tool, okay. Yeah.
Right. So I think there's a difference between collaborating within this tool for a Brown Act committee versus collaborating outside of the tool. So what we're going to do is put kind of fast track the public piece of these proposals so that there can be more input from the public and ESP and other folks earlier in the process. So that's kind of the solution there, and there can be conversations outside of the tool between agencies and between members. You just have to watch that there isn't a quorum of members involved in that conversation. So I would, for specific legal questions, I would defer. I can collect questions and provide them to our legal counsel, but I don't want to give legal advice that, if it's outside of my expertise and the conversations I've had with legal counsel. But it's a complex whole, system here in terms of making sure we're complying with all of those requirements. And so I think what may be a good path forward is to provide additional follow-up questions to me, and I'll get some input from legal counsel and make sure that we're on the right track. But generally speaking, that there's for kind of a sum up here, the initial stages will be member agencies and ATC members and staff will have their logins, and will be able to upload proposals, save, edit, modify as needed. You'll be able to see within the tool just the proposals uploaded by your agency in the initial stages. So I'm thinking more or less, say the month of February, give or take. We'll start making those proposals as they're ready, public in one way or another, in batches, so that we can facilitate a bigger conversation and more access to see each other's proposals. So we just need to make things public so that we can facilitate that. But conversations to collaborate, to check in, to see if your project overlaps, Marin Waterland, say, those can all happen, and those should be part of any project planning process.
So for the time being, just send you questions if we want some clarification about this process.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks, Val. Jim?
Thanks, Dan. No, I just want to acknowledge and say that, I think, at least on Parks, on behalf of Open Space, that there is a lot of good collaboration happening between ourselves and all the different fire agencies in terms of the, generating concepts and kind of vetting proposals on our lands. So I don't necessarily see access to the tool as like an impediment in our partnership, but I think I didn't see in the demonstration of the portal that portion that acknowledges the collaboration or sort of vetting with the land agency. So could we go back to that if that didn't, or if that already got showed and I missed it? And then that might be a place where there's an opportunity to state a bit more about what that collaboration has looked like, so that when the public sees that, there's a bit more confidence in, what those conversations may have looked like, rather than just checking a box that says, if that's indeed what is in there now, like a checkbox. But could we take a look at that again, please? And
Yeah, Josh, do you mind sharing your screen again?
Yeah, I'm just trying to pull up that section right now.
And Jim, we can work on some language that would help address your needs in this arena.
So with adjacent to public lands as appropriate local, state, or federal land management agencies. So this is just the point of contact right here. And it sounds like you would like some more opportunity to explain what that collaboration has been so far.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I think that would be useful. I don't have really much to offer right now in terms of specifics, but I think it would be a good conversation for ourselves and the other land managers to maybe put out some suggestions to flesh that piece out a little bit more.
I think that's a really good idea. Yeah, please get back to us and we'll get that in there.
Sounds good.
Yeah, we wanted to build in a step that just incorporates that collaboration and that communication. Sean?
Yeah, thanks. Just following up on Jim's point a little bit, in terms of making projects public, as you mentioned, is that format happening here when there's batches of projects coming before the public, or in another format? And then similarly to that point of checking the boxes, is there can there be a step that we ensure that if it's on something that interacts with another agency's lands, that process has actually been coordinated before it goes to a public space?
Yeah, absolutely. That would need to be a step that happens before we post it as a proposal on our website or something like that. Yeah, legal counsel provided a few different options for how to daylight projects. And one of them is just posting on our website. Another is kind of mini meetings. They can be in between ATC meetings and ops meetings. They can be in their own separate publicly noticed meetings where we just present. We don't even need to have a quorum. We can just present, what's going on and what's being proposed as they're ready. Once the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, and then that makes them public as well. And they can also be discussed at the next ATC meeting, and that makes them public as well. Fred?
Yeah, just on what we just were discussing about, what Jim was proposing as far as if it's between jurisdictional or between agencies, wouldn't that information be included in the summary? Like if you were saying, you're going to be working in collaboration with Marin Open Space and the National Park Service to include, the X amount of area, and I'm just trying to keep from having we already have a lengthy document. I'm just trying to add to that process. Obviously I'll do what the group wants to do. I'm just wondering if that would be the area that we would have put that information in.
Yeah, Josh, do you mind showing under basic info? There's a location to click multiple boxes and choose who your partners are. And that includes Marin Water, Marin County Parks, state parks, national parks, etc. So that's another location to identify who all is involved in your project. And yeah, if you scroll down.
Here it is.
Yeah.
So you can include it there. And then I also think that that's a good point, that would also fit into the general project description summary. And that maybe what Jim is asking about would be more suitable to include in the project update phases, where we're asking for progress updates on the amount of acres treated and that type of stuff. Maybe also asking on the type of collaboration that's happened so far.
Yeah.
Jim, what do you think about that?
I think that's great. Tim, your hands up.
No, just to clarify, what I'm suggesting is that I see a difference between kind of describing what the partnership would look like and where the work would occur, and conversations that demonstrate that there's been discussions between the lead fire agency who's proposing the work on our lands and, the work actually happening. So I think it's more about memorializing how that project was developed and making sure that, because land managers were engaged in a certain way, rather than just describing that it's going to occur on some land management area. And I think that's good for the public to see that, those conversations occurred. Because in all honesty, there are grants and other things that get completed that folks suggest on our lands that we aren't necessarily engaged in those conversations. So we want to make sure that if there's a public portal that shows that there's something that's going to happen on our, there's a piece that goes further than just saying, this is who a point of contact is, and, you know, this is the agency or something like that. But I definitely agree that I think that the project scope and the description of what that work is and where it is an important part. And yeah, that's in there, but I don't think there's much currently in way of the collaboration.
Yeah, part of the idea is formalizing that step into the process. So that sounds good. Ruben?
Thanks, Ann. I think just to add on to Jim, I think what he's trying to get at is just like I said, memorializing what was a collaborative process that took place. You know, how many meetings took place? Where did they take place? Do we have buy-in from the land managers? And then also just a quick reminder to all the member agencies that if you are planning to do a project that encroaches upon land management, like open space or water district lands, you should be having those conversations now before you submit the project for proposal. So just a reminder of, don't forget to reach out to your neighbors and your bigger land managers to start that collaborative process.
Yeah, thanks so much for that, Ruben.
Especially if you're doing it on federal land. Take it from me.
We have a couple more questions here. Belle?
Yes, I just wanted to say that I was thinking, I've been thinking this for a while, that maybe on the list that Quinn was talking about and that you've been unfolding should be the association or compliance or reference to the ESP guidelines that we'll be discussing a little bit later, because I think they're basic, and I'd like to help figure out how they could be woven into this process.
Thanks, Belle. Jordan?
Just a technical question in relation to kind of sharing information and including other folks who maybe are involved in the planning process but can't have access to the system. Does this program right now, is there any way to exportable or save a summary, you know, or get it in a PDF form? So in essence, instead, you know, I could send it to open space and just say, hey, here, check out these sections. This is what we wrote. This is what we chose. Is there a way to capture this and save this data outside of the system?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
There will be.
Great.
Sean?
Yeah, just one quick question for Josh. Can you share the screen again? And on the right at the beginning where you put your goals and vegetation management was the one you just showed us. Can you just share that section real quick? Can you show the drop-down menu? And I'm just thinking, I don't know, I know that this form is getting long and you probably don't want additional components, but I'm just thinking that some of the work that MWPA will be doing is going to be multi-benefit type of work. And there might be, right, you know, when you communicate these projects to the community and to the public, a way that you want to highlight that. And it could happen in the summary if you're, you know, diligent in thinking about that, but there might be a way that you want to force that as part of your form, just to help people understand the complexity and the kind of layering of the benefits that can occur if these are planned appropriately.
Yeah, so like I was saying, we were going to do primary and then secondary objectives, and we were considering doing that for the goal too, and hadn't made a decision on that, but it sounds like you think that that would be a valuable addition, is to have an option for secondary goals and maybe an option to describe how those all relate.
Yeah, I think it would just be helpful for maybe the community to understand some of the other benefits of the work.
Yeah, and I think we could include a place to put that narrative in, because there, you know, with many of these projects, we're removing non-native plants that are invasive and degrading these habitats. And so it might be useful to include a place for a short narrative to talk about that multi-benefit piece of the project. Yeah, thanks, Sean.
Yeah, thanks. It's a good example.
Belle?
No, I'm finished.
Oh, do you want to? Okay. I
I'll
think your
lower
hand is
my
still
hand.
raised. Jordan. Jordan, did you have another question or comment?
I think it is hands up inadvertent
Yeah,
from a previous question.
I think you're right. Okay.
I think we've gotten some pretty good feedback from members, and I think it's a good jumping off point for Josh to kind of make some improvements or some changes to the program. So I'd like to go ahead and bring it back in to the committee and kind of, I think we've got a good starting off point. So thank you everyone for your questions. I think they're very constructive.
Hey, Chief, can I just ask if we have a technical question, do we go to Josh? Is it directly or?
Yes, you can contact Josh and just CC me
Okay.
and we'll work it out.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
No.
Thank you all.
Under this item, item A, staff is recommending to stand up 2 ad hoc committees to go ahead and assist with the work plans and the D-Space and home hardening grants. Am I correct to, or am I interpreting that correctly, Ann and Mark? How many members was MWP or the Ops Committee looking at to be in each ad hoc committee?
Mark, do you have thoughts on that since you were part of the process last year? Basically, I think what we're looking at is a way to think through, JPA-wide projects and develop ideas for expanding, growing the residential grant program and thinking through ideas that would work for all our member agencies. But I'd love to have Mark weigh in on that.
Obviously, under a quorum, preferably representing all 5 of the zones. And then the best you can to represent the different types of agencies we have, whether it's a smaller volunteer or one of the larger agencies as well staffed, just to get that different perspective.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is at a minimum 5 members, 1 from each op area would be ideal. Are we looking also to have non-voting members as part of the ad hoc?
Unfortunately, per legal advice, we can't have non-voting members in the ad hocs.
Okay. So with that, I guess at this point, we would ask if anyone's interested in becoming part of that ad hoc committees to participate. We'll start with the Defensible Space and Home Hardening Grant Program on how we can improve, implement, and enhance that program.
I'm happy to sit on that.
Okay, so we've got Quinn Gardner for the San Rafael zone. Anyone in Novato? Lynn?
Sure.
Okay, we've got Lynn in the southern zone. It covers multi-jurisdictions. Is there, I believe you cover Fred, it's Fred. You'd have someone from Mill Valley.
Well, it's just me,
Muir Woods.
really. So
Is the Muir
yes.
Beach part of you as well?
Muir Beach is south.
Yeah,
Okay.
Muir Beach is south.
Okay, so either yourself, Fred, or David?
I can do one of the ad hoc. Are you looking for both these ad hoc committees?
Just one. Some people may serve on both ad hocs. We're just trying to get a representation as many different members as we possibly can.
Sure, I can back Fred up on one of them.
Okay, so we've got David Taylor. So the one we're going for now is the home hardening grants and D-Space. And then we've got the Central Zone. Todd, Rob.
I'm happy to.
Okay,
That is.
we've got Todd Lando. And then for West Marin, that would also help represent the volunteer agencies. Jordan? You available? All right, so we'll voluntold Jordan. And so that's, I believe we've got 5 already.
Yes.
That out ad hoc, okay, perfect. So we stood up 1. Is there a recommendation from the Ops Committee on how often they would like to meet?
No.
Okay, we'll go ahead and send that list out to you. I believe Mark was recording or Lori was recording the names. We'll get you guys in contact with each other so everybody has everybody's email for that.
Would you like me to repeat those?
Yes, please.
It's Quinn with San Rafael Zone, Len with Southern Zone, David Taylor with the South Zone, Todd Landau with Central, and Jordan Reeser with West Marin.
Perfect.
Correction, I think you had
Oh.
Lynn for Southern Zone. She's north.
Oh, she's
For
north.
Novato.
Yeah, Novato.
So is it Novato or north? What is it called?
It's called Novato.
Novato. Okay, all righty. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Now we've got ad hoc committee number 2, which would develop a potential JPA-wide core projects for the next work plan. So we'll go ahead and do a roll call from the top. Anyone from Novato that would be interested?
Well, I think I'm the only one from Novato.
Okay, so we'll get Lynn. Thank you, Lynn. Then we'll go to San Rafael, Marinwood.
I'll put my Marinwood hat on for this one.
There you go,
and then
perfect.
It'll feel a little different.
Thanks, Quinn, appreciate it. And then we'll go to the Central Zone.
Todd's happy to.
Okay, we'll get Todd Landau. Southern Zone,
That would be me.
Fred Hilliard. And then for West Marin.
Hey, sorry, this is Jordan. I was on multiple calls there. Can I follow up and see if one of the West Marin chiefs or someone from one of the other agencies would want to engage with this? And does it have to be one of the members from here? Could we have another staff member participate? It have to be a board member.
And Mark,
Mark, do you know the answer to that question?
Technically, they have to be part of the ATC.
Yeah, I think so.
Hey, Jordan, it's Daniel from Stinson Beach. I'll go ahead and take this one.
Cheers, thank you.
perfect. So we've got Stinson Beach, Daniel. I believe that's 5.
Yes, I have Lynn with Novato, Quinn with San Rafael, Todd with the Central, Fred Hilliard with, what section are you with?
He is Southern.
Southern both.
Thank you. And then Daniel with Stinson Beach.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. Do we need a vote on this item or just can we move on to the next?
No vote needed.
Okay. Do we have to open up for any questions from the public?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and open up to the public if we have any public comments.
Anyone from the public wishing to speak on this item, please raise your hand at this time. I see no hands raised. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll bring it back to the committee. So now we're moving on to item number B of the discussion items, is a presentation of the ecological sound practices document. Do we have a report or a presentation?
Yes, I'll share my screen and I'll start us off, and Belle is going to join me on this presentation. So let's see. Are you able to see this slide? Great. So we're really excited to present this item. The ecologically sound practices document is now ready for the ATC to review. Belle will get into more detail about some of the history here, but the Ecologically Sound Practices Partnership has worked really hard on this document to provide some guidance for fuel management in Marin and for the MWPA in particular. We, on our end, MWPA staff and legal counsel and consultants all took that document that was first presented to us at the end of May of last year and really dug into that document. So what we did was review it for compliance with Measure C, compliance with the JPA language, and making sure that the activities that are discussed within that document and the things that are being asked of the MWPA are really allowable expenses, for instance, under Measure C, and make sure that they are consistent with the environmental regulations that we are complying with on a daily basis, and consistent with our own project design and implementation features that we've been designing as we go to incorporate into all of our projects to make sure we're not impacting the environment. So the last piece was talking about feasibility as well. So making sure that we're not committing to, activities that are just beyond what we should or can do. So I think from here, I'm going to let Belle take over the narration of this presentation and really dive into kind of the history and how this came about, and then an overview of the document itself and what's included there. Belle?
Yeah, in June 2020, the ESP began working on best practices for MWPA related to fire fuel reduction. And the drafting and review process involved a diverse mix of scientists, practitioners, specialists from 40 agencies and organizations representing the environmental and climate community, as well as fire professionals, with about 100 people taking part. We focused on 3 subject matter committees: vegetation management and wildlands, carbon resource management, and defensible space for ecological benefit. These committees met once a month for over a year with ESP steering committee guidance. And the vetting process has been rigorous. Excuse me. Benefits have included shared understanding of work, increased communication, and strengthened relationship among participants. And on May 30th, 2020, as Anne mentioned, the ESP partnership delivered a draft to MWPA for review. And there's an urgency in moving these practices through the MWPA review process as quickly as possible. Some agencies are already putting it on their website, and we're eager to see a utilization of them. Next slide, please. So vegetation management for wildlands. The intended audience is MWPA consultants and fire agencies, and overall to protect the biodiversity and resilience of Marin's landscape, including special status wildlife, plants and plant communities, important wildlife habitats, and native species cover and diversity. And basically to collect and track enough data, that's what these guidelines will do, collect and track enough data to support meaningful analysis, design and implement projects to minimize impacts, monitor and maintain projects to assess and assure their effectiveness, and consider new and evolving sources of information to inform best practices. Next slide, please. Yes. A fundamental way to reduce the threat of wildfires is to reduce greenhouse gases that are causing climate change to intensify. And these carbon management practices apply to every scale of landscape, large open space, and single yards. The intended audience is property owners and public agencies, and basically to consider how to enhance carbon sequestration in the Marin landscape, and then to how to reuse the carbon contained in vegetation cutting. For example, with the carbon management practices for public agencies, they would reduce the threat of uncontrolled wildfires with large scale emissions, manage biomass for low GHG emissions and high sequestration, and provide fire-wise and climate-smart public educational materials and presentations. Next slide, please. And defensible space, intended audience is residents and property owners, and the focus on is encouraging fire-smart, water-wise, biodiverse, climate-friendly landscapes. And the way to do it is plant choice to remove fire-prone plants, use native plants that also provide habitat, bees, butterflies, and other wildlife where appropriate, proper maintenance, considering wildlife habitat. And it includes lists of resources. And here I want to mention a few examples of key practices covered by all of these different areas. They enhance habitat, including taking steps to avoid adversely affecting nesting birds, take steps to prevent or reduce invasive plant species, including reinvasion of plant natives, minimize runoff and avoid or minimize adversely affecting streams and riparian habitats, and continue the long-term maintenance necessary for fire prevention. Thank you.
Thanks, Belle. So I'll just close by asking if there are any questions and then talk a little bit about follow-up. So from here, we'd like the ATC to take a look at the document and see what we've come up with. It's been a long collaborative process of drafts back and forth and sharing of concerns and ideas. And so, I'd like to thank Belle and the ASP partnership for their collaboration and their willingness to hear our concerns and questions and think through ways to work together on it. And then I'd like to ask the ATC and the chair if you'd like to create an ad hoc subcommittee to look at it in more detail, or just simply ask the ATC to review before the next ATC or another future ATC meeting to consider and approve, and then move it on to the operations committee and then eventually to the board for consideration.
Thank you, Ann. Thank you, Belle. I think at this point, with holding up 2 ad hoc committees already today, I think it'd probably be prudent for us to just go ahead and have all the ATC members review the document and then bring it back for a discussion and possible action at a future meeting, if that works with staff.
That sounds great.
Perfect.
Steve, just a question about that. If some of the feedback for the document is like wordsmithing, can we do that offline and provide that feedback, or should we still bring it? I don't want to, that could take hours and hours and hours of everyone's time to go over like some word choice things. So I just want to be respectful of that.
Yeah, I think we could probably provide a document with probably comments added to the side of recommendations on the wordsmithing side of it.
Yeah.
And we can bring that as a recommendations to the existing documents.
Yeah.
Would probably be the best.
Sure.
Yeah.
So if we can get that in possibly a shareable, either a Google Doc or a Word doc that we can all add comments to and make recommendations, it'd be wonderful.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
I hate to be the Brown Act police, but a Google Doc could
Oh,
very
right.
easily violate the Brown Act by having multiple committee members putting input into a shared document. So unfortunately, and it makes for track changes nightmare, it would have to be individual comments being sent in to staff. I hate doing this, but it's a reality.
Yeah, thanks for the reminder, Mark. You're absolutely right.
Okay, perfect. So everyone, take a look at the document, make notes, changes, whatever, and then submit them back to staff on the recommendations. And then that way we can avoid any kind of Brown Act violations.
Sorry.
That's okay. Thanks, Brown. Of course, it's Mark Brown, the Brown Act.
My favorite act in the world, right? Yeah, he's wrong. But hey, while I'm unmuted, I do want to extend a big thanks to Belle, the ESP, and also many of you in this group who have been participating as the ESP as our fire representation. Just remember, ESP isn't just our environmental stakeholders, it has fire representation in it. And you probably saw the date of June 2020. That's where it started. That's before MWPA was funded. And the first meeting of the ESP was January of 2020. So before the election was even had. So this is how long these folks have been working on this. They got a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into this document. So thank you, Belle.
It's a team effort.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. I'd like to echo that as well. Thank you, Belle. We'll take a look at it and we'll try to incorporate it into everything that we do. With that, I'd like to open up this portion of the presentation to the public to see if we have any comments or questions.
Is there anyone from the public wishing to speak to this item? We do have one. Bill, I will allow you to talk.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
good morning. This is Bill Carney. I've been on the ESP Partnership Steering Committee with Belle, these 2 or 3 years that we've been working on it. And just wanted to offer up to continue to work closely with Anne as you get those comments in, so that we might be able to help in tailoring them. My role in this has been kind of the quality control guy, trying to keep, a coherent document that would be legible and appealing to the public, so it has the most impact. So just wanted to offer that up. It's been a great collaboration. I look forward to continuing it. Thanks.
Thank you, Bill. Hi, Larry. Larry, go ahead. I've allowed you to talk.
Hi, also as a member of the steering committee, I'd like to second what Bill said and just add one small thing to keep in mind is that this is a living document, so that if you see changes that the ATC or anyone sees in the future, the document is meant to be flexible for all of us. And that's my comment. Thank you.
Bill, did you have another comment? Raise your hand just up. Anyone else wishing to speak on this item? I see no more hands. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. With that, we'll bring it back to the committee. So yes, so just review the document and make any comments that you can. The sooner the better. That way we can start implementing those changes or recommendations into our work plan. With that, we will move on to item number 8, which is our action items for this evening or today. It's the election of a chair and vice chair for the 2022 calendar year. With that, I've been honored to be your member this past year. So do we have any nominations out there for anyone to be the chair and vice chair?
Will you accept a renomination?
Yes, I will.
Then I nominate Chief Martin.
Okay, it looks like it's a second by Rob Bastianon. Okay, we've got a chair. Now, do we have a nomination for a vice chair? Okay, I think we were a good working team. So if Lynn, if you're available, I'd like to nominate you, if you will accept.
I will accept.
Okay.
Seconded.
And second by Todd Lando.
By Todd.
Okay, can we get a motion to move the slate?
I motion we move the slate.
Fred Hilliard, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Larry Pissarro with Kentfield. Can we get a roll call, please?
Yes, thank you. Molinas Fire District,
Yes.
City of San Rafael, Marinwood, CDS,
Yes.
City of Larkspur,
Yes.
County of Marin,
Yes.
Kentfield Fire Protection District,
Yes.
Muir Beach CSD,
Yes.
Novato Fire District,
Yes.
Sleepy Hollow Fire Protection District. They're absent. Southern Marin Fire District, City of Mill Valley,
Yes.
Simpson Beach Fire Protection District,
Yes.
Town of Corte Madera,
Todd?
Aye.
Q. Town of Fairfax is absent. Town of Ross,
Aye.
Town of San Anselmo is absent, and Inverness is vacant. Passes by unanimous vote present. Thank you.
Okay, the motion passes. Thank you, everyone. I guess I feel honored and blessed to represent you again. And the strength of this committee is with all of its members. It's kind of reiterating what Chief Brown and Mark Brown always states is the success and strength of this agency is through each of our members. So I want to thank you guys for all the strong work that you guys have done in 2021 and 2020. And let's keep it going. We've got momentum and let's be successful. and try to avoid disasters within our communities. So thank you. With that, we'll go over to item number 9. For committee members' requests or regard any future agenda items. Do we have any members of the committee that would like to see anything on the future agenda? I would like one, if it's possible, for staff. And if, I'm not sure, yeah, Jim's still on. I'd like to get a presentation or at least a discussion on Measure A and the open space district tax measure that's going to be coming up, and how that can be collaborative with the MWPA projects and what we're trying to achieve, if that's possible.
That sounds great.
We can make that happen. Yep.
Perfect. Thank you, Jim. Anything else from the committee? Seeing none, takes us to item number 10, the adjournment. Can I get a motion? Motion.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the January 2022 meeting of the MWPA Tech.
Give a second.
Second.
Second by Len. All right, guys, that's an adjournment. Thank you, everyone. Please enjoy your week. Thank you, Fred, for coming in. We appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your day off.
Thanks, Ruben.
Thanks, buddy. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Yeah.